Thank you for joining us today. This is Janie Sacco, and I'm with the Small Business Administration Seattle District Office. I'm the Outreach and Marketing Specialist. We are going to cover the Economic Injury Disaster Loan updates and a brief overview of the program. All the information is effective as of September 8th, 2021. We're going to start with a program overview. And what I want you to know is that the Economic Injury Disaster Loan was the first COVID-19 funding product offered by the SBA beginning March 2020. It was comprised of two components: the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is repayable, and then the EIDL grant, which was a grant and was not repayable. The program evolved and the application process was streamlined in March and then again in April of 2020 to make it easier for you to apply as a small business owner for these funds. When the EIDL funds for the grant component were fully utilized in July of 2020, we focused on just the economic injury loan product. With acts in December and March of 2020 and 2021, respectively, the targeted EIDL advance and supplemental advance programs became available. And the targeted EIDL advance and supplemental advance programs are the grant component again of this process. The other change that occurred is that the loan caps last year and into early 2021 were $150,000 per borrower, and that increased to $500,000 this year. In terms of the actual economic injury disaster loan products, we have two. One is called the micro and one is called the full. The micro product is a loan amount ranging from a minimum of $1,000 to a maximum of $25,000. The full product is an amount greater than $25,000 up to $500,000. Both the micro and the full loan carry interest rates as stated here, and the interest rates are for the 30-year life of the loan. If you're a for-profit business, your interest rate will be fixed at 3.75%. If you're a nonprofit business, your interest rate will be fixed at 2.75%, again, for the entire 30-year life of the loan. Both the micro and full loan both have a 24-month payment deferral at the beginning of the loan. That way, you're not impacted initially with having to make monthly payments when your cash flow may not be strong. So your payment will begin on the 25th month from the date of your loan. As far as collateral and personal guarantee requirements, there is a slight difference between the micro and the full loan. The micro loan has no collateral requirement whatsoever, and there is no personal guarantee requirement for this loan. Again, the micro loans are up to $25,000. However, on the full loans, once the loan amount exceeds $25,000, the SBA will take a uniform commercial code lien filing solely on the business assets. The Uniform Commercial Code is also known as a UCC filing, again, solely on the business assets. No real estate nor personal assets are required as collateral on the full loan. Once the loan amount exceeds $200,000, personal guarantees will be required on each 20% or more owner of the business. The use of the proceeds is the same for the micro and the full loan. Those funds may be used for any normal operating expense. Operating expenses are things like your payroll, your rent or a mortgage payment, utilities, inventory purchases in the form of cost of goods sold. And you may use the funds to make the principal and interest payment on eligible commercial debt that was in place on or before January 31st, 2020. Again, it is for any working capital use. We do want you to know that there are some ineligible uses, and they are that you cannot use the funds to acquire fixed assets or any other capital expenditure, and you cannot use the funds to expand your business. Many people would like to know how much you may borrow. That's a very legitimate question. So your maximum loan amount is determined based on a formula and your business type and the date you began operations. This amount is automatically calculated in the EIDL online application, which you will see as I go through an application. The general economic injury formula is as stated on the screen. You are taking your 2019 revenue and deducting your 2019 cost of goods sold. For some businesses, there may be a slight formula change if you do not have cost of goods sold. And please rely on the SBA underwriting staff to make that determination. But for the basic formula, it is 2019 revenue minus 2019 cost of goods sold times 2. And that is technically your maximum loan amount. If you already have an existing loan, you may want to apply for an increase. So what do you need to do? Well, the first thing you want to do is sign in to the SBA EIDL portal at the site indicated on the screen. Your username will be the email address you used on your original application. There is a reset password option available. And then you will go through and determine your eligible increase amount. And again, the loan amount is really, if you applied today, minus the funds you've already received. So if you were eligible for a $450,000 loan and you currently had a loan amount of $150,000, then you would be applying for a $300,000 increase in your loan. If you have already applied for an additional increase, you still have the opportunity to apply for an additional one and receive a loan increase to the maximum amount available based on your formula. Some of the economic injury disaster loans have been declined. So we want to cover a few of those decline reasons for you. The first and foremost is unsatisfactory credit history. Now, there is a stated minimum for your personal credit score for all of those 20% or more owners that are attached to your business. However, what I would like you to say is please do not self-eliminate. Go ahead and apply for the EIDL if you need to have the money. Allow the SBA underwriting team to use their discretion based on the reasons for the unsatisfactory credit history to make a determination to help you. The next one is unverifiable information. When you get this in a decline letter, that's all you see. But it is typically related to a number of items, and it could be any one or more of them. And unverifiable information could be that your 4506T form for the SBA to request your tax return transcripts, it was not filled out properly. So the SBA was unable to obtain your transcripts. That may be the number one reason for unverifiable information. Sometimes if you have changed your address and you have not updated all of the state of Washington websites relative to your business, then you may have conflicting information from your, I'm sorry, yes, I will slow down a bit. You may have slightly different information on your application as compared to the Secretary of State or the Department of Revenue website. So please make sure that you have updated all of the websites that are relevant to your business. And what I would also encourage you to do is include a document to indicate the reason for the address change. The next one is economic injury is not substantiated. What we're talking about there is if you had revenue in 2019 that was less than the revenue in 2020, then you may not have demonstrated economic injury. So for example, if you generated $800,000 in revenue in 2019, but you, because of your business type, generated $1 million in revenue in 2020, you have not met the economic injury test because your revenue increased. The other one is that you may not have generated enough revenue in 2019 to offset the grant component money that you received under this program. So just think about what your revenue stream is and how much money you may have already obtained under this program, under the grants, and think about that as a potential issue for not substantiating the economic injury. The last one is failure to respond. This is one that you definitely have the ability to control. As you are going through the application process, please watch for an email that ends in @sba.gov. When you receive an email from an address @sba.gov, please open it as immediately as possible and review the content. It will tell you what steps you need to take next to help you through the application process. And that is a very important thing because in the email, you will see that you have a specific number of days to respond. If you do not respond to the needs in the letter, then you will receive a decline letter for failure to respond. I do want to let you know under each one of these decline reasons, you may request reconsideration to reactivate your application and submit additional backup information. So all is not lost if you do receive a decline letter. We just need you to resubmit portions of the application that satisfy the declined reasons. And you would send that email into pdcrecons@sba.gov. In terms of applying for reconsideration, please confirm all of the eligibility requirements under the program. And again, as I stated earlier, please provide all the documentation outlined that were the decline reasons in your letter. If you need to have support or additional help from the SBA, you may contact us at the local office. And we have an office in Seattle, and we have a branch in Spokane. So regardless of which side of the state you're on,
you can contact either one and get some help from us, which we're happy to do. Now we are going to transition over to the actual application demo. I'm going to share my screen. We are now looking at the SBA website. And you go to www.sba.gov. What I do want to point out is that this website is translatable into 108 languages outside the English language by clicking on Translate in the upper right-hand corner. You then have the ability to select any of the languages on here to see the system translated over for the entire website, with the exception of some applications. So we are going to shift back over to English. The next thing that you want to do is scroll down and click on the EIDL program. You will see, again, you still have the ability to do a translation here. But more importantly, as you scroll down, you'll see information about loan details, loan eligibility, loan increases, and information for existing borrowers, and to be particularly careful of fraud and identity theft. And there are application document information translated into a few other languages. So you can click on that and see if your language is in that deck. Next, you're ready to apply. So you click on Apply Here. The COVID-19 economic injury disaster loan application will populate. This is the first page. So we will be going through disclosures first, then on the next page, business information, on the third page, business owner's information, and then additional information, followed by a summary of all the data that you entered into the system. So the first thing we want to do is read through the information at the top and then make a determination of your entity eligibility verification. So you have the option, as we scroll down, of choosing one of these several eligibility options. The first one, and the one that most of you will be selecting in all likelihood, is applicant is a business that, together with affiliates, has not more than 500 employees. But agricultural enterprises are eligible. An individual who operates under a sole proprietorship or as an independent contractor together with affiliates is eligible. Cooperatives are eligible. Tribal small business concerns are eligible. Agricultural cooperatives and aquaculture enterprises, nurseries, and other producer cooperatives are eligible, and so long as they meet the size standard. And then a private nonprofit organization that is a non-governmental agency or entity is eligible. And an applicant that is a business together with affiliates that has more than 500 employees and is assigned a NAICS code beginning with these numbers, 61, 71, 72, etc., and employs not more than 500 employees per physical location, and has no more than 20 locations is eligible. So what I want to point out here is that based on the number of employees at 500 or less and a variety of other eligible size standard factors, many businesses that we serve are eligible to apply. So I'm going to select the first button for ease. And I'm going to continue to scroll down. We next need to go through all of the eligibility questions. And it's very important that you read each one to make sure you're answering it correctly, because this, again, is a determination of eligibility. The applicant must review and respond to all of the questions listed. And an owner includes each proprietor, each limited partner or LLC member who owns 20% or more interest, each general partner or managing member, and each stockholder or entity owning 20% or more voting stock. So 20% ownership is the key for each person who has to go through these questions. So number one, is any principal of the applicant with a 50% or greater ownership interest more than 60 days delinquent on child support obligations? We're going to answer no. Has the applicant or owners of the applicant ever been engaged in the production or distribution of any product or service that has been determined to be obscene by a court of competent jurisdiction? We're going to say no. Is the applicant or owners of the applicant currently suspended or debarred from contracting with the federal government or receiving federal grants or loans? I'm going to say no. Is any owner of the applicant currently incarcerated? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to scroll down. Is any owner of the applicant presently subject to an indictment, criminal information, arraignment, or other means by which formal criminal charges are brought in any jurisdiction for any felony? I'm going to answer no. Within the last 5 years, for any felony involving fraud, bribery, embezzlement, or a false statement in a loan application or an application for federal financial assistance, or within the last year for any other felony, has owner of the applicant been convicted, pleaded guilty, pleaded nolo contendere, or commenced any form of parole or probation, including probation before judgment? I am going to answer no. Is the applicant engaged in any illegal activity as defined by federal guidelines? This includes selling recreational or medical marijuana. I am going to say no. Does applicant present live performances of a prurient sexual nature or derive directly or indirectly more than de minimis gross revenue through the sale of products or services or the presentation of any depictions or displays of a prurient sexual nature? Again, I'm going to answer no. Does the applicant derive more than 1/3 of gross annual revenue from legal gaming activities? I'm going to answer no. Is applicant primarily engaged in political or lobbying activities? I'm going to answer no. Is applicant owned by a state, local, or municipal government entity other than a tribal business concern as described in the regulation? I'm going to say no. Is the applicant owned by a member of commerce? Again, I'm going to say no. Is the applicant a pawn shop that derived more than 50% of the previous year's income from interest? No. Is applicant engaged in lending or investment? I'm going to say no again. Is applicant a loan packager that earns more than 1/3 of its gross annual revenue from packaging SBA loans? I'm going to say no. Is applicant engaged in multi-level sales distribution? Again, I'm going to say no. Is applicant engaged in real estate development or investment other than rental properties? Again, I'm going to say no. Is the applicant a life insurance company? I'm going to say no. Now, under 19, you have a little bit of a variation here, but the question is the applicant business or any owner of 20% or more of the applicant currently in bankruptcy? Although I'm going to say no here, then you do need, if you are in bankruptcy under either of those circumstances, then take a look at the other three statements. If the answer is yes, but the business or the individual is operating under an approved plan of reorganization under a Chapter 11, Chapter 12, or Chapter 13 bankruptcy, the applicant is eligible. However, the other two statements here indicate that the applicant is not eligible, as indicated here and here. So if I were going to summarize this particular section, in order for you to be eligible, you need to answer no for questions 1 through 18. However, 19 is the exception, and you may have a yes answer, but only if you have an approved plan of reorganization that you are operating under. So if you do have any questions about this application or problems providing the required information, you may contact the Office of Disaster Assistance Customer Service Center at 800-659-2955. We also have the TTY number, or you may email disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. I also want to say that if you do have questions, you may call the district office as well. And we provided that information for the contact already. So now that I have filled everything out here and responded to each question, I'm going to click continue. If I have properly filled out everything, this system will transition over to the next step, which is the business information. And I am going to type in a fictitious business name to get us going. I'm going to treat this as a sole proprietorship. So the business name begins with the individual's name. The trade name is also known as the doing business as name. And I'm going to put in Smith Computer Services. I now have to select from the drop-down on the right an organization type. So I'm going to select sole proprietorship. Then I'm going to answer the question, yes or no, is the applicant a tribal small business concern? In this case, I'm going to answer no, but we already know that a tribal small business concern is eligible. It's just a matter of identifying if it is or is not. So if you are a tribal small business, you would click yes. We're going to continue to scroll down, and we need to put in the business tax identification number type. We are going to go to the right, and we are going to click down and then go back to the left and make a determination if we are using an employer identification number or a social security number. In this case, I'm going to make the assumption that John Smith, doing business as Smith Computer Services, does have employees. So the business would have an employer identification number. And then we do need to enter in the 9-digit tax identification number. In this case, the configuration would be 9 digits. You do not have to put in the dash. You just need to have 9 digits. So I'm going to just put some more digits in, see how many I have. And I need one more. So we're good to go. Is the applicant a franchise? Well, I'm going to go through this and select no eventually. However, I would want to demonstrate to you, if you select yes, then you do need to provide the SBA franchise identifier code. And how do you find that? Well, you click on this link, which takes you to the SBA franchise directory, and you download the PDF. And I know this is really very small and hard to read, but you have the brand name that you can look at. And when you're opening this up on your own, it will be significantly better as far as your readability. But next to each one of the franchises that are eligible, there is the franchise identifier code. And all you need to do is highlight that, click on copy, and then go back to your application and paste it in. If you already know what it is, you just need to type it in. Okay, so we're going to take that off. And we are going to say that this is not a franchise and continue on. One thing I want to point out here is that when we put in the primary business location, it must match the 2019 tax return address. If you organized your business in 2020, then it must match your 2020 tax return. The primary business address needs to be listed here, but it cannot be a PO box. So we're going to make up an address. And what I do want you to note on the state, you do have on the right side the ability to select any states from the drop-down box. I just typed in Washington and you could see that it populated. And since Seattle is in King County, we're going to enter that in properly. And I am going to just use any old zip code that I know in the city of Seattle, but obviously you would write in or type in your correct address. As we continue to scroll down, if the business address listed above is the same as the business location address, you can click on this button and the business mailing address will self-populate and you will not be able to make changes to that. If you have a different business mailing address, then you do not click the button and you would enter it here. For ease, I'm just going to say the mailing address and the business location address are the same. This is important because this application, if they are different, you do need to put the business location address in. And the reason for that is because this application also helps the SBA identify for the targeted EIDL advance and the supplemental advance if you're in a community that is considered low income based on the mapping tool for that is on the SBA website. Okay, so please be sure and put in the correct addresses for your business. The business phone, I'm just going to put any old number in there, and it automatically configures it in the proper format. If you would like to add an alternative business phone, you may do so. If you would like to add a business fax number, you may do so, but they are optional. However, you do need a business email address. So we're going to type in, again, a fictitious one. And then we do need, as we scroll down here, we do need to put the date the business is in operation. And for SBA purposes, I want you to understand that is the date that the business began making sales. And you can see it's a 2-digit month, 2-digit date, and 4-digit year. If you happened to buy a business where you bought the ownership of the business, meaning that you, as the buyer, took the ownership of the legal entity name from the seller, selling owner, and you retained their tax identification number, then you would need to put in, more than likely, a different current ownership date. All right. But in this case, I'm going to assume that John Smith started this business on his own and he did not purchase it. So his ownership date would be the same as the date the business started in operation. They do not have to be if there was a change in ownership. So please keep that in mind. Now we have to identify the business industry. And I think what I selected was miscellaneous services yesterday when we were doing the practice. So I'm going to keep with that. So again, you take a look at the drop-down box and you just make a selection that is the most representative of your business type. Okay. I could have selected potentially business services as well, but let's stay with miscellaneous for now. Then we need to make a selection about the detailed business activity. So again, we go to the drop-down box on the right and we make a selection based on the miscellaneous service for the business activity. You have these 5 options to populate. So what I'm going to say is other service retail. Again, you're going to select whatever is most appropriate for you. The next thing we have to complete is the NAICS code, the North American Industry Code for your business. And it is a 6-digit code. So you can type it in if you know it, and you can find that on your tax return, or you can go to the Department of Revenue website, which is www.dor.wa.gov, and you can search your business name and you will be able to find your NAICS code on that system. And what I would encourage you to do is to do that anyway and compare it to the NAICS code that is on your tax return. If they are different, you may want to align them and have your information be consistent. That way, when the SBA underwriters do a search of the public record information and they compare it to the material that you're providing in the tax return and this application, the NAICS code is consistent. Okay. If your tax return NAICS code is in error, then what I would encourage you to do is to provide an explanation of why you used that NAICS code for that year on that tax return and explain the rationale or reasons why you are now using a different NAICS code in your application. So let's take a look. We're going to click on the link and you now can do a keyword search, and I'm going to do computer servicing and click on NAICS search. And you will get a listing of all of the NAICS codes that you can look at to align with your business. I am just going to, again, highlight the first one. I'm going to copy and I am going to paste it in to the NAICS code. And you can see I've still got all my little icons up here. I'm going to get rid of them for ease because I don't want to overload my system. The next items that you need to fill out here are the number of employees, but that was as of January 31st, 2020. So in this case, I'm just going to type in 20. And then in the next box, we need to fill out the current number of employees at the time of application. And I'm going to put in 15 because our operation has gone down a little bit here. The next, the next information that you put in as I scroll down is the business financial data. And we're just going to make up some numbers here. But I'm going to assume that in 2019, my gross revenue reported on my tax return for John Smith's business was $1 million. I am going to make the assumption that the 2019 cost of goods sold on the tax return was $200,000. Now, this seems really easy, but I want you to remember to always use your tax return document as the source because we want your application to go through as efficiently as possible. Don't guess. Go in and look at the document because that is what the SBA underwriters will be looking at and processing against, along with the verifying tax transcripts that we obtain from the Internal Revenue Service. For 2020 gross revenues, you may have filed your 2020 tax return at this point in the year. So if you did, please use that. If you did not, then you may use company prepared profit and loss document to reference these numbers. If you have a third-party preparer, like a bookkeeper or a CPA or an accountant, then they can provide you the document and you can use the numbers on that. But just make sure that you have a source document that you can refer to. I'm decreasing the cost of goods sold by a little bit. Again, you're going to put in actual numbers. If you have a rental property business, then this is where you would add your information for the residential and commercial revenue, and it is the actual rents reported on your tax return for 2019. The next box is rental properties, residential and commercial only, that are your actual rents collected in 2020. If you are a nonprofit or an agricultural-based business, you would put in your actual 2019 cost of operation on this line. If you're a nonprofit or agricultural enterprise, again, you would put your 2020 cost of operation on this line. As we scroll down, you now see your calculated eligible loan amount. I'm going to give you a little bit of a little secret here. Yesterday, the maximum amount that popped up was $500,000. However, tomorrow there will be an announcement at about noon our time, Pacific time, as to changes in the maximum loan amount under this program, including affiliates. So along with a few other changes to the program. All right. So that's why this dollar amount is above $500,000 today. On the line below it, the applicant can request a specific loan amount below or up to this dollar amount. So if I said, John Smith only wants $1 million. Let me see if I put in enough zeros. Nope. Okay, there we go. He can do that. All right. Or he can put in an amount all the way up to $1,600,000. But this is now at your discretion. And remember to the slide deck that I showed earlier, if you do not want to personally guarantee the loan, then you would enter a loan amount of not more than $200,000. So this is your opportunity to have control over and manage your risk appetite relative to the loan amount. Again, if you did not want to personally guarantee the loan and not pledge collateral, you could put in a dollar amount of $25,000 or less. All right. So just keep that in mind when you're selecting the dollar amount that you wish to have processed. And I'm going to go right up to the top here to see if I missed anything, just to be on the safe side. And I'm sorry if I'm a little bit making you seasick. Sorry. Okay, so yeah.
Jeannie, you may need to update your numbers to come out below the 500,000.
Yeah.
The application is in between,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. Let's see if I, nope. Am I going the wrong way? Maybe. We'll see. Okay, whoops. All right, so I'm going to maximize my loan amount. There we go. Click next, and we are on to the business owner information page. Thank you, Margot, for the prompt. Okay, this is what I normally miss right here. The question is the applicant business owned by a business entity? Well, the answer can be yes or no and still be eligible, but you need to answer the question. And in this case, I'm going to say no, because this is a sole proprietorship. So I want the information to be consistent. It could be a yes. And I'm going to show you what happens if you do select yes. What populates is you need to enter the information about the business applicant parent entity. Well, what does that mean? It means that you now have to populate all of the information about the business which owns your business in full or in part. So you would populate the legal entity name. You would select the organization type from the drop-down box, make a selection about the business tax identification type, enter in the tax identification number, the address, and so forth, just like you did for the applicant business. The only difference here is that you now would have to add what percentage ownership this legal entity has in the applicant business. All right. So we're going to go back and select no. And what this means is that there are only individual owners of the business. But what we need to do is for each proprietor, limited partner, or limited liability company member who owns 20% or more interest, and each general partner or managing member or stockholder or entity owning 20% or more of the voting stock, we need to populate the owner information for each person who owns 20% or more of the business. So what we need to do is start with business owner name. We're going to, I'm going to scroll up so you can see this a little bit better. We're going to put in a phone number. From the drop-down box on the right, we need to select the title or office that the business owner holds. In this case, I am going to select owner, but if you have a limited liability company, you could select manager, accountant, chief executive officer, chief financial officer, chief operating officer, or other, depending on who is the owner of this particular business. Okay, so in this case, we're going to select owner. Then we have to put in the ownership percentage. And in this case, I'm going to put 100%. I am going to do an email address for John Smith. And we're going to put in his social security number. And you just need to enter the numbers in. The hyphens automatically populate. We're going to put in a birth date. And again, 2-digit month, 2-digit date, and 4-digit year. And we need to put in the place of birth. So I am going to just put in Renton, Washington, but you need to identify whatever city and state you were born in, or if you are a legal permanent resident, you may put in the country you were born in. You now have to answer the question, is the owner a U.S. citizen, a non-citizen national, or a qualified alien? All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a insight here. You just need to scroll down to the bottom of this page, and you will see what the definitions of a non-citizen national is defined as, and what the definition of a qualified alien is defined as. That way, you're completing this accurately for this purpose. So we are going to say that John Smith is a US citizen and answer this question, yes. All right. And then we're going to type in a residential address. Again, for the state, you have the drop-down box here on the right that you can use. You can just type it in like I did. And we're going to put in a zip code. And if there is more than one owner who meets the 20% or more ownership requirement, you would simply click here to add the owner. Now, one thing I am going to say is that once you do that, you then have to go to the drop-down box on the right, click on that, and then all the information will populate that you have to complete and answer the questions and put in the address. In this particular case, we're going to click on Remove Owner because we only have identified John Smith as the owner in this business. So you have to click on Remove Owner to get rid of this Add Additional Owner if it is in error. If you click on it in error, that's how you do it. All right. Now I automatically know that I have populated everything okay because my next box is blue. So we're going to click on the next box. And now we are at additional information. So we're going to scroll down. And here's the really nice thing about this application that is a change or an adaptation to help you. This indicates what required documentation you will need to provide. These documents will be requested online later in the process. Your application will not be accepted without them. So when you put in information about your business, then you will have a list of documents specific for your business that you will have to then upload as part of your application. In this case, the application system is asking for an IRS form 4506T. It needs to be completed and signed by the applicant. The completion of this form digitally on the SBA COVID EIDL platform will satisfy this requirement. What I am going to say right here is that we're finding a very high failure or decline reason if it is not filled out properly. You can go to the SBA website and see an example of a properly completed 4506T and the instructions to do so. Again, it is on the sba.gov website. If you do happen to get a decline and you want assistance, you can contact us at the Seattle District Office or the Spokane branch office, and we are happy to help you correct this and get it in good format. But you can also go to this website and take a look before it's a problem and get it done properly the first time to help yourself. Any of the following documents demonstrating gross revenues. We have business tax returns, and you're given multiple options here based on the business type. It can be an IRS Form 1040 Schedule C or an IRS Form 1040 Schedule F, or it can be a partnership IRS Form 1065, and they want, in this case, the inclusion of the Schedule K1s. So again, you don't, in this case, you wouldn't have to do all of these documents, but what you could do is any one of them or more if needed to support the demonstration of your gross revenue amount included in this application request. Okay. All right, so now we're going to continue to scroll down. Any additional information may be necessary to process your application. If requested, please provide the following within 3 days of the information request. The first one is a copy of government-issued photo identification of each principal owning 20% or more of the applicant business. So that could be a driver's license, it could be a legal permanent resident card, or it could be a passport. If you are providing a driver's license or a legal permanent resident card, be sure and provide an image of the front and back of the document. All right, the next one is the tax information authorization. Again, that is the IRS form 4506T. And it needs to be completed and signed by each applicant, each principal owning 20% or more of the applicant business, each general partner or managing member, and for any owner who has greater than 50% ownership in an affiliate business. Affiliates include, but are not limited to, business parents. Again, that may be a similar ownership entity, subsidiaries, and or other businesses with common ownership or management. This is very important, and it speaks to the, again, remember, your employee number has to be 500 or less, including affiliates. So this is how you demonstrate the affiliation. The next one is a complete copy, including all schedules of the businesses or the organization's most recent tax return, or a copy of the organization's IRS tax exempt certifications, and complete copies of the 3 most recent years of statement of activities. Okay, again, that's for a nonprofit. If the most recent federal income tax return has not been filed, a year-end profit and loss statement or an income statement and a balance sheet for that tax year has to be provided. You want to also provide a current year-to-date profit and loss statement or income statement, depending on who is preparing it. You may also be required to provide a schedule of liabilities listing all fixed debt obligations, and the SBA form 2202 may be used. That can be obtained from the SBA website. So again, if any of these items are requested, you need to provide them within 3 days of the request. And I have to emphasize, any of the tax return documents and any of these items need to be scanned in as a PDF format. Okay, you cannot use JPEG or doc or anything else. You want to use a PDF format. All right. Next, as we scroll down, if anyone assisted you in completing this application, whether you paid them a fee for the service or not, that person must enter their information below. So if you had someone assist you, you need to enter that in. So we're going to put my name in there for ease, and I'm going to just oops. Oops. Okay. And my street address. I like lanes, I guess. Oops, I missed something, didn't I? I need to put in my city, my state, and my zip code. And then the agreed upon fee charged if applicable. And then we have to click on I give permission for SBA to discuss any portion of this application with a representative listed above. You could say no. And if the SBA had any questions, they would direct them all to you. If you say yes and click yes, then that's authorizing the SBA underwriter to contact the person that provided technical assistance to you as part of the application. Either one is fine, all right? But you need to make a determination. All right, now here's the thing that's also really important, where to send the money. Because once your loan is approved, and we're hoping you have an approved loan, you need to put in your bank name, the routing number, and the account number. All right, so the bank name should be the official name of the bank. So if you're not sure about that, please contact your bank or your credit union if you happen to be a member of a credit union with a business account to make sure that you're putting in the proper name. Ensure that you provided a checking account to facilitate the ACH payment. And by saying that, what we're actually saying is you want to have a business checking account, and you may need to provide a copy of the canceled check. And the ACH payment is actually the SBA's deposit into your account that goes through the US Treasury. All right. The bank account you provide must satisfy the following. Number one, the account has to be opened using your business legal name, matching the name you entered in the business information section of this application. If you do not have a business legal name, such as a sole proprietorship, the name on the account must match the business owner's name. So in this example, I could provide a check or an account that had John Smith doing business as John Smith Computing or Smith Computing Services, whatever I used for the trade or DBA name. Number two, the account has your business address and phone number on it. And again, that business address should match the information that you have put in this application. And number three, the account opened using your business tax identification number, whether it was an EIN or a social security number contained in this application. So you will put a business name in here, and I'm going to put in Boeing Employees Credit Union and the routing number, and then an account number. All right. Now, again, one thing I do want to say here as a reminder is on that routing number, please check with your financial institution, whether it's a credit union or a bank, and make sure that you are putting the electronic transfer routing number here. And if it is different from the 9-digit routing number on your check, again, the routing number is the first 9 digits on your check. If the electronic processing routing number is different from the numbers on your check, then I would encourage you to just put an explanation in the application as a separate document indicating that your institution has a different wire routing number or electronic deposit routing number, then that is on your check. Okay. All right. And as we scroll down, you need to read through this entire statement set. All right. This has to do with all of the laws and representations, everything that basically manage this application process. So I'm going to cheat here a little bit, and I want to go down and show you something else that I want you to click on and read through. You can click on here for all the additional statements regarding the required bylaws and executive orders relative to the application for an SBA loan. So I'm going to click on that. It is loading, and please read through the entire document. Again, it is statements required by laws and executive orders for an SBA loan. And it's a few pages here to read through. But again, I just want you to see it keeps going. So please read through that. And then once you've done so, you can click on here and say, I hereby certify under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States that the above is true and correct. And then you click on the dark blue button. All right, that takes us to the summary page. And this is your opportunity to go through and review all of the information that you have input into this application. And please review it with a critical eye as if you did not enter the data. Because if you're like me, sometimes I could do a transposition of the numbers or a typing error when I'm doing my data entry. So please review it. And I'm going to show you at each section here, you have the opportunity to go in and click on an edit button indicated by the pencil. And I'm going to only do it one time as we get to the end of this. But what I want you to see is that for every section that you enter data in, you have the ability to edit. So if I click on any one of these edits, it's going to take me to the section that I need to edit, and I can make changes. And then I scroll down to the bottom and click next, and it takes me back to the summary. All right. Now, what I strongly recommend that you do is print out this summary. And how you can do that is you go up here, and I'm just going to show you on the cursor. Click on the little 3 lines, go down to print. It will come up like this, and then you click on print and you retain the document. The other thing that you could do is take screen prints and save them to a Word document, whatever is easier for you to do. All right. So then we're going to go down to the very bottom. And you're going to click on I am not a robot. And then if you were actually submitting the application, you would click on the submit button. And because this is a fictitious application, we are not going to do that. When you do click on submit, the next thing that will come up is your application number. I'm encouraging you to do a screen print or print that so that you have your application number as a reference. And then you wait for the SBA to contact you for any additional information. And you will get a link to a portal in an email to continue the process. So that is the application process for the economic injury disaster loan and related advance product for the process. All right. So I am going to. I'm done. Okay. All right. So here are some things to speed up your processing time. And I'm going to be really emphasize this. Please take your time and accurately complete your application. In normal time, if I was doing this for an applicant or for myself, it would probably only take me about 10 or 15 minutes to go through the application. If you have your tax return and a copy of a check and have some of that information ready to go ahead of time. But speed is not the issue here. We really want you to take your time and go through and complete the application accurately. Again, keep a copy of your online application, and please monitor your emails associated with the email you put in your application, and watch for an email from an address that ends in @sba.gov. Please respond as timely as possible to the SBA requests for any applicant information, signatures, approvals, supporting documents, and the email will indicate the number of days you have to submit the information. And please be sure to document any inconsistencies that may be on the public record. My opinion really is to get it all in alignment and corrected before you submit your application. And if there are any address changes from the tax return from a year or two ago, please document why they are different. And as I said earlier, submit all materials in PDF file formats. Okay. All right, so now we're going to cover the economic injury disaster loan advance programs. Remember on the first page of the application, those 19 questions that I answered no to? That is part of the targeted EIDL advance application that has been incorporated into the economic injury disaster loan application process. So you now do not have to complete another application document. It's all in this one. All right. And when the underwriter is reviewing your application, if there's a determination made that you're eligible for the EIDL advance programs, then you will receive an email from an @sba.gov email, and it will give you an invitation to complete the remaining process for a targeted EIDL advance and or the supplemental targeted advance. All right. So again, you will receive an invitation via an email from SBA to continue the application process for those advanced products. And remember, the targeted EIDL advance is up to $10,000. The supplemental targeted advance is up to $5,000. and they are grants. They are not repayable. If you do have questions, please contact us at the SBA Seattle District Office. You have 3 ways that you can get a hold of us. You can email us at info.sdo for Seattle District Office at sba.gov. You can call us on 206-553-7310, or you can go to our website at sba.gov/WA. And I can always tell when Christina comes on, I'm getting the hook. So thank you very much for participating today. And back to you, Christina.
All right. Well, thank you, Janie. The step-by-step instruction is very helpful. And I know there have been many questions that have been answered on our Q&A portion of the Zoom. So as a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and we will be sending out a transcript of the questions and answers with the links to the webinars, the slides, and the resources as a follow-up to you. And this concludes our program for today. I want to thank Melanie and Janie for giving us your time and expertise today. We appreciate you two very much. I want to thank you again to all our partners who are working hard to support our business community and working with us to produce this program. A special thank you to Nora Adams from Adams Interpreting Services and David Kraft and his team for the production support of this event. And I ask that you bookmark this site, oneeastside.org/spark. There you will find key resources, information on our no-cost one-on-one advising, our weekly webinars, and other grant opportunities as they become available. And another quick reminder of our webinars coming up over the next couple of weeks. And last but not least, a big thank you to all of you for participating in our webinar today. So until we see you again, this concludes our program. Thank you.